There's a lot of chatter about exercise and fertility and what should women do and what should men do. But the truth is, to lower inflammation and insulin resistance, therefore to have better hormonal health, you need to build skeletal muscle and use it. Your muscle has a transporter called GLUT4, but the short answer is the more muscle you have, it allows your cells to use glucose without insulin. So we don't have to worry about the salesman. It's like giving glucose a key to the cell. So you build muscle, you use muscle, glucose can get into the cell, lower some of that blood glucose level, lowers insulin. The cells start to become what we say is more insulin sensitive because the salesman's not coming every day. So when he shows up again, okay, now we're going to open the door because we're now more sensitive to this process. We're not just resistant to it. So building and using skeletal muscle, picking up weights, doing resistance and strength training, that should be the core of any exercise program we can do because it's really important for hormonal health for both men and women. Similarly, I said earlier, sleep. When you get sleep, this is when your body's going to naturally use up some of the glucose and insulin. It's when your inflammation can drop. Obviously, it's when your body's going to go clean up process and try to heal everything. It also allows some of your cortisol levels to drop, which is that stress hormone, and it sets you up for a day. We want to start our day with no inflammation, right? We know we're going to be exposed to things that kind of kick it up for us, but we want to start the day at a good level. And so 7 to 9 hours of sleep is really what your body needs to do all the cleanup functions that it has to do. And this is real sleep. So we got to charge our phones in other places, have a cool room, make it dark. Men, women, if we sleep in the same bed with a partner, you can't get good sleep if they're doing something different. So you really need to say, hey, we're going to turn off the TV. This is going to be the time we go to sleep. Focus on this together. And the other tenet on this is going to be stress. And I call sleep, stress, and exercise the foundation of our day. These are free things essentially that we can do that determine how your body's going to respond to all the things you encounter through the whole day. Cortisol is that hormone communicating like, oh my gosh, something is happening. It is the stress hormone. Cortisol is, let's think back to olden days. You see a bear and cortisol is going to say, oh my gosh, there's a bear. And your body needs to free up some glucose so that that glucose can be used to fuel, your heart and your lungs and your muscles so you can run from the bear. So stress response is meant to get you out of bad situations and to free up resources so that you can deal with that. However, we have little stressors and what's called chronic stressors, meaning your body's not supposed to have cortisol elevated all the time. You can't constantly run from a bear. The other analogy I like to say is the things that make us stressed in the modern world are not bears. We get a bad email or we're in a meeting and, we start to get anxious and our cortisol rises. The olden days, if you saw the bear, you would run from the bear and you would use up that glucose and lower it back down and your body would go back to normal. But now we're exposed to a stressor. We're sitting at our desk. We never deal with the stressor and we kind of persist with this elevated blood glucose level that we don't use. And then we're exposed to another stressor or we then eat some junky food because we're stress eating. And then we stay up late because we're stressed about whatever the thing is. And we're never giving ourselves that moment to combat that stress because people get really nuanced when we talk about stress. And I have a lot of fertility doctor friends who don't like to talk to patients about stress. I don't want to stress you about being stressed. But the reality is we live in a stressful world. Infertility is one of the most stressful and traumatic things that you will go through. And instead of making people glossing over this, we should say, this is a stressful process and you need to cultivate 20 minutes a day to lower your cortisol levels to start to allow your body the ability to respond to these stressors more. So I tell every patient, you've got to carve it out. And what works for you might not work for me. We're really different people and that's okay too. But you're searching for that feeling. So on a daily basis, what is that going to be? Is that meditation, mindfulness, a walk, sitting outside, feet in the grass, yoga, acupuncture, therapy, coaching, coffee with your friend? I mean, 100 things can do it.